I don't know if you heard Goose Gossage there say it never steps.
I just heard him now.
Yeah. Well, wait a second. Does that mean Goose Gossage won't stand there with Gaylord Perry then? I mean, where do we draw the line in this thing? This thing is, I understand we're opening up Pandora's box here, but does that mean we take guys who doctored the ball out of baseball too? I mean, where do we? Everyone is in a very weird place here with this thing, and I think you probably, as I told the audience, have as good a relationship with all the different facets of baseball, from managers to owners to players to everybody. So you're a very good guy to get a feel on this thing. How does baseball come to grips with this issue?
Well, I think it's coming to grips with it with this ballot. I think this ballot tells volumes as to how baseball is coming to grips.
But I mean, are we going to keep people out based on suspicion, though?
Well, I don't think that'll be the case. I mean, suspicion is a good word to apply to somebody like Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza's right now, as far as I'm concerned, as far as most people are concerned, is nothing more than a suspicion attached to him when it comes to steroids. Same thing with Jeff Bagwell. They were never named in the Mitchell report. They were never tested positive. And so they come under that suspicion rule. But look at the percentages they got, Mike. I would predict to you that both of those guys are going to get in eventually. I would think that Piazza, probably a lot of guys, this is his first time on the ballot. And a lot of guys don't vote for anybody their first time on the ballot for just on general principles, because they think that, nobody has ever been unanimous, and so Babe Ruth wasn't unanimous, Joe DiMaggio wasn't unanimous, and on and on, and so they don't vote for anybody on the first time on the ballot. So considering all the suspicion surrounding Mike Piazza, the fact that he got over, I forget what it was.
57, I think.
57%. Yeah. That's pretty good. And I would think that a lot of guys didn't vote for him the first time just because they just need a little bit more time and they need a little bit more information, if any information is forthcoming.
But here's the thing, Bill,
how do we know? Make a big jump next year.
How do we know about anybody, though? Like next year, everyone says, well, we'll put Maddox in. Maddox clearly deserves to be in, but because of his demeanor and because of his physique, we now decide he never did anything. We don't know, though. So how do we know about ananybody?
Well, I guess, certainly we know about guys who failed tests. And
no question. No, there's not. Listen, I don't think we have an issue about Clemens and the Play Association is whistling for no reason. They can tell you that Clemens, was vindicated. He wasn't vindicated in any realistic way. That was a ridiculous trial. We all know he's guilty. And listen, I have no problem with Clemens and Bonds, and I think what they got was fair. But what I think is a really tough sell is when guys have no history and all you have is suspicion, hard to keep them out on suspicion, and a lot of guys did, it looks like, at least keep Piazza out. We'll see where he goes from here, but they're making judgment calls on guys without evidence one way or the other. Isn't everybody under suspicion?
Well, you could say that everybody's under suspicion just because it was the era, Mike, but I think you'd agree with me that some guys are under a lot more suspicion than the average guys are.
I would agree. And then there are guys who gained weight and guys who were single hitters who weren't. Piazza, it's basically just that there were rumors. It wasn't like he had a performance change. It wasn't like he had a big body change. It was basically that there was just rumors about him, and people thought he had a steroid-type injury, which was that groin injury, which people said was a telltale steroid injury. So there were rumors about him, but nothing ever. I mean, there were rumors about a lot of guys. I bet you there were guys there were rumors about. Don't you think, Bill? There were rumors about guys that probably wasn't true, don't you think?
Well, I guess, but I can't remember what rumors they were. The other thing you have to point out is Piazza's production did drop off dramatically after testing went into effect.
But catchers do when they get older anyway, though, a lot of times.
Well, that's true, but he was, But anyway, I mean, there are those things. But getting back to your original point, Mike, I can tell you I'm pretty familiar with the way this process has worked over the years.
Right.
I can usually predict every year who's getting in. But judging by the vote totals that Piazza got and Bagwell got, they're getting in. So, the fact that they didn't go in, Piazza didn't go in on the first year, so what's the big deal? He's getting in. I can tell you that.
You think so? You think they're going to get in?
Yeah, unless something comes up. You know, there are investigations going on all over the place with the steroids, and this thing hasn't ended with the Clemens trial and the Bonds trial and the testing going into effect in baseball. This thing is going to go on and on. People are going to continue to be looking into this thing. There are steroids dealers all over the place out there. Who knows when one of them is going to come forward and say, look, I gave this guy steroids and I did this or that, or some guy cops a plea for something else by giving the federal investigators information on guys in baseball or football or whatever that they gave steroids to. The feds are not giving up on this thing. They haven't dropped this issue.
How do you feel about that list that's under lock and key, Bill? That of that 100 failed tests. What do you think about that? Do you consider that a smoking gun in this whole thing?
Well, it could be. Yeah. I mean, look, that's what got A-Rod.
Do you think we'll ever see that see the light of day?
That's a hard question to answer, Mike. I would think that we would never see it because of the vehemence that the union has put on the fact that it must be kept secret and it can't ever be revealed. And baseball seems to be in somewhat of an agreement with that. But sometimes there's always somebody on the inner circles that gets a hold of that thing. I mean, I don't know how many people are privy to that thing. I would think it would never become public, but that's another thing. What if we voted Piazza in and that list did get revealed next year?